The Hummingbird Diva, a character randomizer story. Abnere Norma Ofey smoothed the bodice of her dress, waiting for their turn to take the stage. She tried to ignore how tight it felt. The giant hummingbird printed on green silk stood out in brilliant contrast against the black dresses and tuxes the other duos were wearing. When the singers before them stopped and received their marks, she shifted nervously, waiting for them to leave the stage. Her partner, Raven Skozarf, bounced his heel with uncharacteristic nervousness. "We've got this, Abby. We'll sing it just like you wrote it, and they'll have to take us both." Abnere tried not to scowl at the nickname. It reminded her of all the teasing she'd endured in elementary school. He never knew she'd discovered he was the one who coined the taunt, Abby Normal Fairy. Things had changed in secondary school when they both went to music camp and he discovered her voice and talent with compositions. They won second place at the end of camp duet contest. Furtively, she glanced at his hawk-like features and black hair, so handsome and always wearing the latest hairstyle. Only his pocket square matched her dress. The haute couture style and slight iridescence of his tux meant he looked more like a male model than an opera tenor. A glance told her the judges weren't impressed by their deviation from the expected dress code. But Raven insisted there was nothing that said they couldn't wear color. She looked at the toe of the jeweled pink shoes, the color of her lipstick. She hated pink. She thought it was a gaudy color. But Raven wanted her to wear the shoes, so she agreed just not to fight again. The shoes were his apology after last night's disagreement. He skipped up the steps, then paused, turning back to hold out her hand to her. As she ponderously lifted her feet from step to step, her ankle popped painfully in the ridiculously high heels he demanded she wear as part of their stage costumes. She inhaled in pain, walking as erect and slowly as she could. Abnere tried not to limp. Raven held himself as though they had already won the internship at the National Opera House. She stood quietly as he announced their piece was a personal composition called "The Wind and the Hummingbird." "Sing," the head conductor demanded. Their voices rose and fell in a cappella. Hers trilled like a hummingbird. Raven insisted her spirit animal was. Abnere lost herself to the song. Painful ankle forgotten, she felt magically glowy under the stage lights with only her voice. Even with one arm raised, it was difficult to inhale in the tight bodice, but she forced her lungs to take in the air she needed for the note. Suddenly, there was a pulling feeling from the back of her dress. She dropped her arm and squeezed her elbows together, realizing the zipper had broken. Her voice squeaked in dismay, and Raven glanced at her with a frown. He finished his solo. Abnere didn't know what to do. The heat of her embarrassment flushed, making her sweat, but she held her arms tight to her sides, then crossed one and grasped the front of her dress when she felt the silky fabric starting to slide down her body. When she started to step away from her during her solo as they practiced, she tried to pull it up. Then she realized Raven was standing on the hem of her too long gown, completely unaware of her wardrobe malfunction as he sang. Stepping toward him, she tried to regain her composure while pulling at the silk, and they continued singing. "Stop!" Conductor Ziva commanded. "Mr. Skorzoff, please sing the last stanza again." When Abner inhaled to join Raven, the conductor shook his head and put his finger to his lips. Her ear caught the burr in Raven's voice as it climbed to the higher octave. Without her voice to make the flaw invisible, it was as clear as the sound of traffic in the morning. When he cut Raven off, he looked at her. Miss Ofey, we have heard enough of your voice. Please go and change from your defective clothing. There was a sharpness to his voice as he glanced at Raven that she did not miss, and she wondered what was going on. Shaking and humiliated, with her dress clutched in place, Abnere bowed her head. Yes, Conductor Ziva. Thank you for listening. She limped off the stage without even getting her critique. She wanted to weep as she slowly descended the stairs. Her whole future was gone, burned away like a morning fog in summer. A single song and a torn dress was all it took. The heels of her left shoe broke, and she tumbled down the stairs with a surprised shriek. Tangled in the voluminous silk of her gown, she couldn't even catch the rail to save herself. Her temple hit the floor so hard she saw stars. People rushed to her, and she was turned over. As she was turned over, she saw Raven standing at the top of the stairs with a smirk so fleeting she thought she imagined it. She blinked to see him rushing to her side. He knelt on her dress as he pulled her up to lean against him, embarrassingly revealing the corset she wore. Abby! Abby, wake up! He jostled her roughly, and she passed out. Waking to the wailing siren of an ambulance. Abnere blinked her eyes. She inhaled slowly and realized she was no longer wearing her dress or corset. The paper hospital gown and sheet protected her modesty. Easy, miss. We're taking you to the hospital, the paramedic revealed as she placed a soft splint on Abnere's ankle. I'm pretty sure you broke this, and you probably have a concussion at best. But, but my audition, she whispered. My critique. We'll have to wait. The woman looked worriedly at Abnere's fluttering eyes. I'm so tired, she slurred musically. Her head hurt so much. She felt she was sinking as something throbbed inside of her skull. No, stay awake. Don't go back to sleep. Miss, miss, stay awake. She was a hummingbird, flying through the forest, trilling and singing in angelic tones. Sweeping on blurred wings between trees, she paused to sip from a beautiful flower. Rain began to fall all around her, turning the leaves into drums and spider webs into harps. Her hummingbird self sang with the storm song and glowed brightly, turning the raindrops into falling crystals. Far away, Abnere heard the ping of a drop of water on a metal chime. It became a beat that matched her heart. She sighed in her sleep, longing to wake. A hand squeezed hers. Miss Ofey, can you hear me? Slowly her eyelids lifted. She was in a dull white room. Her tongue felt as she tried to lick her lips. I'm your doctor. You've been unconscious for a week. Do you remember what happened? Her chin dripped in acknowledgement. I fell. That's good. There's someone who wants to talk to you about your accident. Just rest. I'll call him and see when he can come in. Abnere closed her eyes without moving. The pinging chime became slower as she dozed off. Miss Ofey, are you awake? A different voice demanded. Inhaling, she looked out the window. Hummingbirds flitted past. They were her favorite bird. She had been in the hospital alone for almost 2 weeks, grieving the failed audition and loss of her career as an opera singer. She was glad that her induced coma meant she slept through the first week. She turned her head when the man repeated his question. My name is Detective Hayes. Do you remember how you got here? I fell down the stairs at the conservatory, Abnere answered quietly. Where did you get the costume dress you were wearing? The shoes? Raven picked them. How did you fall? Were you pushed by someone? No. She was confused by the questions. When the heel broke, I fell down the stairs. I'm fat and clumsy. He disparaged her size, but his grimace silenced her. Are you aware that Mr. Skozarf was about to lose his scholarship due to voice changes caused by vocal cord damage? Has he ever talked to you about needing to win the internship or he would fail out? Are you aware that the conservatory has a policy about student deaths, accidents, or mental breakdowns that grant passing grades to fellow students? The detective clicked his pen repeatedly as she shook her head to answer each question. No, no, I didn't. Her eyelashes fluttered. What is this about? Mr. Skozarf's intent was to injure or kill you. Has he ever treated you poorly before? Acted controlling? She explained about their childhoods and how he bullied her until they ended up at the same music camp. She revealed how he wanted to be both her singing partner and manager, often bullying her into going along with his choices, even if they seemed always purposed to make him look better and put her performance in the background. She quickly amended her statement at his look. I didn't mind. Being famous means so much to him, and I just love the music. We disagreed about it, argued about it the night before the audition, even. Miss Ofey, your friend admitted to using you to try to become an opera idol, and he has been stealing your compositions and passing them off as his own. Your instructors caught on to his little scheme, but not before he tried to humiliate you at the final audition and harm you. I'm sure he wouldn't hurt me, he blurted out. He hoped that when your dress fell off, you would run off the stage, fall down the stairs when your heel broke, and die. He almost succeeded. Your instructors and conductor Ziva didn't realize how far he would go to save himself. The detective's dark gaze convinced her. Raven tried to kill me? She didn't want to believe what he was implying. But But we've known each other since primary school. He he's my oldest friend. He was never your real friend. He admitted he used you to advance his status at the music conservatory. I'm sorry. He stood and bowed to her. I'm glad you will recover. Congratulations on your future career, Miss Ofey. I look forward to hearing you sing. You should call Conductor Ziva. I think they are waiting for your recovery with bated breath. An hour later, Abnere stared at her phone. The National Opera offered her an internship with performances, even if she had to lean on a cane until her ankle was healed. Looking out the window at the hummingbirds, Abnere began to sing. Her dreams were coming true, and once again she felt the glow of joy and music in her soul. The end. Thank you for listening to another short story created by writer Sam Wicker's Character Randomizer. Be blessed and have a lovely day.